Well, meanwhile, the U.S. and Saudi Arabia are sealing the deal on a civilian nuclear program. Now, it's set to create the potential for uranium enrichment on Saudi Arabia's soil, but it would be controlled by a contracted corporation. Now, the corporations involved have not yet been disclosed, but sources familiar tell us that agreement is set to be signed as early as this afternoon. Now, the Wall Street Journal's national security correspondent Michael Gordon was one of the reporters to report just that, and he joins us now. Michael, thank you so much for being with us. The timing of this deal is interesting, considering that we're at war with Iran, in part to try to stop the development of nuclear weapons in the Middle East. So what's at play here, and how much of this agreement with Saudi Arabia is intended to gain their support for this war?
It's not really connected with the war. This is a deal that was actually discussed during the Biden administration. They were prepared to engage in nuclear cooperation with Saudi Arabia, but they had a condition. They were only going to do it if Saudi Arabia normalized relations with Israel. Well, that's not happening. That's not even close. And so the Trump administration is willing to provide American nuclear technology. There's a lot of money at stake for the American nuclear industry, but there's no requirement that the Saudis normalize relations with Israel at this time.
Can you explain the role, though, of American companies in this deal? You know, it essentially blocks China and Russia from doing this kind of business with Saudi Arabia, but why is it attractive for the U.S. to play a role in Saudi Arabia's nuclear infrastructure?
Well, this is MAGA world deals writ large. I mean, one of the principal purposes of this agreement is to get tens of billions of dollars for the American nuclear industry, which has not been thriving, in particular Westinghouse. And this is advertised. There's no secret about this. So one, it's a big shot in the arm for American nuclear companies that are engaged in making reactors and ancillary services. Also, the argument the administration makes, which a lot of people in Congress don't accept, is that if the Americans are the central party on the ground in Saudi Arabia, building the reactors and potentially a uranium enrichment facility, that'll give the United States influence over the program and preclude Saudi Arabia from developing a nuclear weapon, something it says it's not interested in doing right now, but it said it would do if Iran pursued that avenue.
Is there concern, though, that this agreement could arm Saudi Arabia with a nuclear weapon and then, in turn, encourage the spread of nuclear technology throughout the Middle East?
Well, there's a lot of concern on those grounds. For example, United Arab Emirates, another Gulf state, which has complicated relations with Saudis, they have nuclear power reactors, but they don't enrich uranium. They don't reprocess plutonium. In fact, they've agreed never to do that. And they've also accepted the most stringent inspections. And so what some people say is, well, now that Saudi Arabia is going to be held to a lesser standard, and they may be able to enrich, that's not decided yet. How are you going to ensure that the UAE upholds that higher standard? What about other states in the region? Won't they want to have a civilian nuclear program? So the argument of the critics, and there are many of them in Congress, is that you're encouraging the spread of nuclear technology, not nuclear weapons necessarily, but nuclear technology in the Middle East. But I don't think Congress is going to be in a strong position to stop this.
Michael Gordon, great to see you. Thanks so much for that insight.